Good evening, brethren. Tonight we're going to continue with the book of Hanoch, chapter 95. And it says, verse 1, maintain hope, O righteous ones, because the errant ones shall suddenly perish from before you, and you shall have dominion over them, according to your wish. These days I have been seeing how the powers that be are pretty much provoking a lack of food in stores, and that will bring, of course, hunger. Like I was saying to some of our brethren, it's amazing how, for instance, we see in scriptures many famines that happened in the past, mainly 11 in scriptures, which, because of how they are described in scriptures, seems to be a time in which the land, because of the sins of the people, for that reason and other reasons, was not given as much food as other years, so people were dying of hunger. Yet this time, the ones in power are so evil that they are actually, in some cases, destroying food, and in other cases, just blocking the access of people to it. So they are pretty much preparing a famine for the world, and it's already pretty much starting. But I guess the uh, the main event may be next year. So I've been thinking about that a lot because I've been seeing a lot of videos and stuff regarding that subject coming from a lot of people from different parts of the world. And other than that, the seeing all of the food that they are blocking pretty much and is staying there at sea, just doing nothing. So thinking about that, and of course how the Almighty would do for how he would act pretty much for his congregation regarding this subject, which is very important. Like, for instance, when Israel was in Egypt and they were in Goshen, and the plagues were not affecting them. So I always tell you guys and always pray about that, so that when everything starts happening, we will be sustained by his hand, of course, in every way. And yesterday I was with some of our brethren, and we got to read Second Kings, and then also First King, a little bit about the prophets Elishua and Eliyahu, and then about Eliyahu when he stopped the rain for 3.5 years, which represents the first 3.5 years of the two witnesses, because that's one of the signs mentioned in Revelation 11 about the two witnesses, the fact that they can stop the rain. However, it means something spiritual, unlike that part in Kings that is literal. 3.5 years with no rain on the earth. So he went to the house of a widow, and she only had food for one more meal. Yet he prophesied that she would have food from that moment on till the end of the famine, pretty much. And that's how it was. That's how it happened. And the woman, the widow, and her son were fine. They had food. Her son died. Eliyahu resurrected him. And that actually represents the two witnesses, Eliyahu and the son of the widow, being killed at the end of the 3.5 years, and then resurrected. So the point of all of that is that we should maintain hope, because Yahweh will take care of his people, those who are seeking his presence through his son, the only way to the Father. So maintain hope, O righteous ones, because the errant ones shall suddenly perish. That will be a sight to see. The errant ones shall suddenly perish from before you, and you shall have dominion over them according to your wish. As we know, Yahweh will give us authority to judge even the angels. Then it says, in the day of the sufferings of errant ones, pretty much the great tribulation, as it is normally called. Here it says great persecution, which will start during the time when the two witnesses die. Even when they resurrect, they go up, they pretty much Michael fights against Lucifer, takes him out of heaven. He comes to the earth and starts the persecution. So that's why Yahushua said, when you see the abomination of desolation, where it should not be, those who are in Yahudah, which means something obviously in the literal sense and also in the spiritual, flee to the mountains. And that is why it is called the second Exodus, which most likely will happen during Sukkot, which will be celebrating tomorrow, by the way. So in the day of the sufferings of errant ones, your sons shall ascend and fly like eagles. This is perfect because it confirms what I was just saying. If we go to Revelation 12, I was just talking about how Michael, or the Malach Michael, would fight against the dragon Halel. It's in this same chapter. So just to see that part. And there came to be fighting in the heavens. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought, but they were not strong enough, nor was place found for them in the heaven any longer. And the great dragon was thrown out of heaven. A lot of people believe that he was thrown out way back, and that this chapter in Revelation is just talking about something that happened thousands of years ago, even though everything else in Revelation has to do with the future. That really doesn't make sense. I mean, the writer could decide to do that if he wanted to, of course, but it doesn't make sense with the way Revelation is written, and even with everything that is written within this chapter, because, for instance, it talks about the son being born, and a lot of people believe that is Yahushua being born from a virgin. In this case, it is talking about a spiritual birth, and the virgin is not Miriam, is the congregation. The son is not Yahushua the first, is the witness like Moshe when he resurrects, being the last. So just like Moshe died, and then his successor came, whose name was Yahushua, that represents when Moshe, the witness like Moshe, dies, he will resurrect, being one with Yahushua, Hamashiach. And in that moment, meaning he will receive the authority when he goes up, as Revelation 11 says, the chapter before this one that we are reading at the moment, and he will receive authority to then go, as we see here in this chapter, and fight the dragon and kick him out of heaven. Everything that comes after this, if this was a chapter regarding the past, then the question would be, what happened with everything that happened from verse 7 pretty much till the end? That hasn't happened in the past 2,000 years. There is no image of that in the past, really. And the ones they mentioned, there are, like I always say, a microcosm of the bigger picture regarding the prophecy, which will manifest during our time. So the fact that there are certain parallels, because of how prophecy works, there are some parallels in what we read in the past, doesn't mean that the whole prophecy has been fulfilled. In this case, I repeat, there are so many parts of this chapter that haven't been fulfilled. And that is one, the fact that Satan hasn't really fallen to the earth. He fell from the favor of Yahweh, as I always mention, once he offered the fruit of the knowledge to Chava or Eve. That's when he fell from the favor. But remember that in heaven, a day is like 1,000 years on earth. So he was given 6 days to gather evidence in order to present his case in court during Judgment Day. And that's what he has been doing. But now, after killing Mashiach life himself, and then killing the last who represents the good, so after killing the truth and the goodness of Yahweh manifesting on this earth, he will lose all power and he will have to come and face consequence. But before he faces that consequence, he will have 3.5 years to destroy the earth, which he will do because of his anger. So, as I was reading, and the dragon was thrown out, the serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray, as he's doing right now. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. Also, just in case, remember when the scripture says that that Satan is like a lion going about the earth, well, a roaring lion going about the earth, looking for whom he may devour. So, there it is talking about Samael, Belial. In this case, by mentioning the word devil as the accuser, is referring to Hillel, Lucifer, who uses the Torah to accuse and send people to Sheol through death, which came from Samael, the first Satan. So there are 3 Satans, as I always mention: Samael, Hillel, known as Lucifer, and then Azazel, known as Abaddon or Apollyon. So those 3 fell in different times in history. In Lucifer's case, like I was saying, he fell from the favor when he gave the fruit of knowledge because of his intention to rule over humanity. But then he will lose his power after making the same mistake twice, pretty much, by killing the first and the last, influencing the people of the world, and then obviously also condemning, sending a lot of people of the world through that influence to the punishment, pretty much, depending on the person and their fruits, what that punishment will be, if eternal or temporal. So, and when I mean temporal, I mean during this earth, rectifying through the great tribulation. So, as I was saying, the great dragon was thrown out. So Hillel has been the power, the prince of the power of the air, because he has been in the second heaven, not in the third heaven, which is the heaven of Yahweh. He has been in the second heaven, which is the heaven of the angels. So he will be kicked out from that second heaven, a reality above this one, and he will be thrown out of that heaven into this reality, and he will claim to be God on earth, which in a way, we say like that, that's what it would be, since God is a name for Lucifer, or for fortune, the god of fortune, as they would say, according to Isaiah 65:11. So, and the great dragon was thrown out, the serpent of old. So, as I was saying, Hillel is in the second heaven, so above this reality. That's why he's the mighty one of this reality, and that is written in the new covenant, which means that even after Mashiach having come to the earth, Lucifer still remain as the god of this world. So and the great dragon was thrown out. So he will be thrown out after the death and resurrection of the two witnesses. When the lawyer, Mashiach, and the two witnesses have appeared, then um, he can be condemned. And the great dragon was thrown out, the serpent of all, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in the heaven, now have come the deliverance and the power and the reign of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers, who accused them before our Elohim day and night. So he is still accusing. We have been forgiven, but he's still accusing. And that's why people, when they come to the Father and pray for forgiveness, Yahweh forgives them because of their faith, but sometimes the enemy, through the flesh, continues to accuse the person. So the person starts to believe, if he or she listens to that enemy within the flesh, he will believe that he's still accounted as guilty. So there are a lot of people who, even after asking for forgiveness, feel guilty. And it is because they listen to that accusation coming from Satan day and night, which will finally stop when he is kicked out of heaven. So, in a way, well, as we're about to see, the chosen few will have a new body without the inclination to do evil. So, on our part, that would be the best time ever, because we won't have any inclination to evil. I repeat, meaning not even to those thoughts. Those evil thoughts won't enter our minds. But when it comes to the world, which will receive Satan with open arms, it is as if the whole world would have lost its conscience, in the sense that they, just like when a person sins so much that it gets to a point where that person is already lost spiritually, so he or she doesn't feel any remorse for what they may be doing. When the world receives Satan with open arms, when he is kicked out of heaven, so he's now no longer an accuser, he will come to the earth, and that will be a time when everybody would finally be able to discard all or any morals that may be left in society without any remorse, because there won't be an accusation. So for us, it will be amazing. For the world, it will make it get worse. So then, and they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness, and they did not love their lives to the death. Because of this, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea. So heavens and you who dwell in them, that's when the chosen few will finally be above the firmament, singing the song of Moshe and the Lamb, according to Revelation 15. Then it says, woe to the earth and the sea, meaning this lower reality where Satan would be falling to, because the devil has come down to you having great wrath, knowing that he has little time. Imagine if to him 1,000 years is what to us is a day. And I say to him because he's in the angel realm, in that second heaven, because when we actually think regarding Yahweh and his own reality, which is way above all realities, in eternity, time does not exist. So we cannot say that one day is 1,000 years or anything like that, because there is no comparison. There is no change. Time changes things. Yahweh doesn't change, for he is eternal. So my point with that is that the 1,000 years and the one day is in regards to the second heaven, where time is just lower because it's getting closer to eternity up high, in which time does not exist. Or we could say does not change from one moment to the other. It's just one and the same moment, an eternal one. So, like I would say, regarding the third heaven, there is no right and left, there is no up and down, it's all one. All of that regarding duality was created for this reality because Yahweh is one. And that's why this world was created through the number two with the letter Bet as the first letter of the whole scripture when it says Bereshit bara, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. So my point is that if Hillel has been used to a time that, well, a day to us is 1,000 years, when he comes to this reality and only has 3.5 years, to him that will be nothing, seconds. So he will be very angry and desperate. So, and I know we're reading Hanok, but this really connects with what we were just reading. So it says, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. And that's part of what I was saying. If, like, to the people that see this chapter as referring to Miriam giving birth to Yahushua, where does it say that the dragon or Satan was persecuting the woman after having given birth to the male child? Because they will say that Herod sent people to kill all the children 2 years under, but that is not the same as saying that he went after the mother. We don't see in scriptures the enemy going after Miriam. I mean, we do see in the Talmud how they treat her and talk to her, talk about her in a very bad way, but that is not what this is saying. They will pay for that eventually, for that disrespect. So, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman. So he will go after the congregation who gave birth to the male child, from whom the witness like Moshe appeared. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. That is the verse that was connected to Hanok. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. This is the time when the chosen few will be transformed from this body to the spiritual one, which will be like that of Mashiach when he was resurrected, which could teleport pretty much. He would disappear and appear somewhere else. He would change his appearance and other things. So that would be pretty much the body we will receive at this point. And well, the chosen few who are here mentioned as the woman. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time. 3.5 years, the last 3.5 years of the last 7. From the presence of the serpent, and out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman to cause her to be swept away by the river. And the earth helped the woman. In scriptures, the earth represents the many who do believe but have not accepted the seed to give fruit through a tree. So those who give fruit are trees. Those who are believers but do not give fruit, for they have not received the seed, which is the name of the Son, for the name of the Son is the word of Yahweh, according to Revelation 19:13. So if the name of the Son is the word of Yahweh, then the seed is the name of the Son, because the seed, according to the parable, is the word of Yahweh. So those who do not accept, do not confess the name, they may be believers, but they have not given fruit from their mouth, as it is written also in Hebrews 13:15, that we must give a sacrifice of praise, that is the fruit of our lips, confessing his name. So then there is the sea, which represents the nations, because they are under water, that of the sea, which represents Sheol. So they are under death, for they have not even come to believe in the testimony of Mashiach, of his death and resurrection. So, and the earth held the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. They possess the witness, the testimony, meaning they believe in their death and resurrection. They fulfill the commandments, but it doesn't say anything about the name or the word, which it does say every time before this chapter regarding the chosen few. So pretty much it's saying, after the dragon is not able to destroy the congregation of the few who not only have the testimony of Mashiach, but also the word, and when the dragon is not able to destroy them because they are transformed during the harvest, he will go after the rest of the people who do claim to believe in Mashiach, but are vulnerable because of not accepting his word, which was taught by the two witnesses whom they rejected just a few days before this moment when they killed him. So all of that is the boy in 1 Kings 17:17 that was resurrected by Eliyahu, really Yonah. According to Judaism, it was Yonah. I mention it when I teach about that chapter because, like I always mention, what I have read of Judaism, I find it very interesting because other than giving, well, not all of it, because the Talmud has a lot of evil things, but I'm not talking really about the Talmud, even though certain things have come from it. Talking more about Midrash, the legends of the Yahudim, which they would say the legends of the Jewish people, and other things. So I have found that many of those teachings, even though they are not in scriptures, obviously they are based on what we read in scriptures. And I see over and over again many signs that confirm that Yahushua is Hamashiach, even in things that have nothing to do, I repeat, with Christianity or even the new covenant, because I'm talking about Jewish people who do not accept the new covenant. They have a lot of knowledge which actually will help to condemn any of those who are not truly Israelites and who are following a false doctrine and rejecting Mashiach, even though in their own teachings you can see Mashiach everywhere. And I mean Yahushua, confirmations of the fact that Yahushua is Hamashiach. And that is part of what I see in this story of Yonah. The fact that Yonah would have died once as a child, that is from Jewish tradition, and then one as a older man when he was in the fish, as we see in the book of Yonah. That represents the first and the last having to die. So Yahweh having to die twice, once as a son and then as a father, as a child and then as an older man. What that represents, obviously Mashiach was not a child, but he came, well, he was a child when he was born, but he didn't remain a child, although by him being the lamb and the lamb having to be 1 year old, plus the fact that he came to make his brother, so he came as the son, therefore that represents a child. That's why Yonah as a child dying represents Mashiach, the first dying. And then the last represented by Yonah in the book that we see in scriptures. But not only that, because there are a bunch of other things. When he was young, he was called by Yahweh to go and preach to the Israelites. And he preached to them, and they didn't accept his testimony. My bad. They did accept it, so they repented. And when the punishment that he was saying would come, if they didn't repent, didn't come, when it didn't come, the people said that he was a false prophet, which is the same thing that happened in Nineveh. So that is one of the reasons, which makes a lot of sense with the book. One of the reasons why when Yahweh goes to Jonah in the book of Jonah, for him to go to Nineveh to preach, he doesn't want to go because he already had a bad experience in that sense, in the flesh, of course, because he went and told them that if he didn't repent, they would be punished in Israel. They didn't repent. So I said it bad again. They did repent. So the punishment didn't come because they actually listened. But once it didn't happen, they took that as a proof that he wasn't a prophet. Yet they didn't account for the fact that he said, if you don't repent, then the punishment will come. They repented because of fear. Yahweh didn't send the punishment. And then they started claiming he was a false prophet because they were not punished. So they didn't really see the mercy of Yahweh. So they started calling him a false prophet in Israel, just like Mashiach the first came to Israel, and he's being called a false prophet ever since by most people, even, well, mainly what they call the Jewish people. In the book of Jonah, we see him being sent to the nations, represented by Nineveh. Before he goes to the nation, he goes to Spain, which is interesting because a part of the people of Israel went to Spain and then they were kicked out and sent to America where they multiplied. So there are a lot of things in the book of Jonah that represent the second manifestation. That's why also Mashiach spoke of the evil generation, the worst generation being the last generation, who would not receive any sign except the sign of Jonah. So talking about the Son of Man in the third person, meaning Yahushua talking about the second coming of Yahweh on this earth as the last, one of the two witnesses, being killed and then resurrecting 3.5 days later. So, just that, and there are other details, but that story of Jonah, which kind of fits with what we see in the book. Like I said, for instance, the reason why he was not really happy about going to the Gentiles after having been to the Israelites, his people, and being rejected as a false prophet. He said, now I'm going to go to the Gentiles and they're going to call me a false prophet because you're merciful. You're not going to punish them. You're not going to punish them. And then they're going to call me a false prophet also outside of the land. So that also shows how the last comes from outside, from the nations, just like Moshe, Zerubbabel, and others in scriptures. And also why he was pretty much expecting judgment. So continue. It says, also the woman was given nourishment for 3.5 years. That directly connected to the end times, not Miriam's time. Exactly, brother. Completely. And also, well, I guess you also heard the connection, right? But the connection with 1 Kings 17 of how the widow, in this case as the Ruach, and widow because they killed Mashiach 2,000 years ago. Obviously, he resurrected, but according to this reality, he's gone. Meaning, according to the world, of course. So, and also the woman, oh yeah. So the widow gives nourishment to Eliyahu. So that is like the Ruach giving nourishment to the chosen during the first 3.5 years. Let me see what else. Priscilla says, so he died 3 times. Yeah, he was resurrected twice and then he died a third time. And as they say, third time is a, well, yeah, that was it. All right, so I'll continue with Hanok. So in the day of the sufferings of errant ones, your sons shall ascend and fly like eagles, and your nest shall be higher than that of the condors. Like I said, and I guess this time I won't go and read it unless you want me to, because it took a lot. Revelation 15 shows how the chosen few, after being harvested, gather with the sovereign in the clouds, as Paul said it. Then the chosen few will be over the firmament singing the song of Moshe and the Lamb, which was represented by the time when Israel crossed the Sea of Reeds, or the Red Sea. So when they crossed the Red Sea, and then they sang a song in Exodus 15, was a representation of when the chosen few crossed the firmament without experiencing death, and then they sing a song on the other side after the second Exodus, and that is found on Revelation 15. So, your sons shall ascend and fly like eagles, and your nest shall be higher than that of the condors. Like squirrels you shall climb, and like small hares ye shall be able to enter into the cavities of the earth and into the clefts of the rocks, far for always from the presence of the irreverent. These cavities of the earth could be connected with, and I don't know why I think maybe we read this one, but maybe it was similar to something said in a previous chapter. The cavities of the earth could be connected to the different stories that are said regarding um, places under the earth that other civilizations inhabit. There are a lot of stories of another world pretty much being under the earth, and that could be connected with the fact that it says that every knee shall bow of those in the heavens, on earth, and under the earth. And just like we will be able to go on top of the firmament, it says here we will be able to go also under the earth. So there are places under the earth, and we will have to see in what way we will be able to experience them, meaning in the physical form or just the spiritual, as I guess most people would imagine when thinking of going under the earth. But like I said, I do believe there's also something physical. I mean, the earth is um, greater than what they have told us in every sense. So, and into the clefts of the rocks, far for always from the presence of the irreverent, who shall groan over you like sirens and weep due to you. Therefore, you shall not fear those who have troubled you, because the restoration shall be distributed among you. A radiant light shall illuminate you, and ye have heeded the word of tranquility from heaven. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we read this one. Woe to ye errant ones, for your wealth gives you the appearance of righteous ones. A lot of people in the world are listening to the supposed scientists and doctors and uh, politicians whom they see as saviors. And one of the reasons why they are fooled is because they worship money, and these people have money. So they make a connection in their hearts that leads them to think that because of the fact that they have money and seem important because they are on TV, which most people want to be on TV. So when they see somebody on TV and having money, that's a a plus pretty much. So they see those people as what they call, obviously they don't say it, but subconsciously as gods, as those whom they should follow, their idols. So they connect the fact that they have money with being on TV and think they are successful, important, able to lead, and therefore they follow. It says here, woe to you, errant ones, for your wealth gives you the appearance of righteous ones, but your heart convicts you that ye are errant ones. So eventually their hearts will give testimony against them because they told them. And it shall be a testimonial against you and your evil works. Woe to you who feed on the best of the grain, who drink wine in large mugs, and with your power trample the humble ones. Woe to you who can drink fresh water at any moment, but do not do so, because at any moment you shall receive your recompense. Eventually, they'll be seeking water when they are in hell, just like the rich man in the book of Luke that went to hell and was asking just for Lazarus or Eliezer to dip his finger in water and touch his tongue, and he thought that just that would bring some satisfaction. We cannot imagine that feeling, thankfully, to the Most High. So, in the spiritual sense, of course, Yahushua is the water of life. So, right now, the water of life is available, but they don't want it. They don't want to drink. So, they will receive what they deserve when they are not able to receive any water whatsoever. Woe to you who can drink fresh water at any moment, but do not do so, because at any moment you shall receive your recompense. You shall be consumed and wrong from the very last drop, because you have rejected the fountain of life. There's the confirmation. Mashiach, the water of life, which connects with Thessalonians when it says that because of the fact that they rejected the truth, Yahweh will send them the lie so that they believe in it, because they did not have love for the truth. Instead, they rejoiced in deceitfulness, pretty much, depending on the translation. Woe to you who forge the wickedness, which connects also with Thessalonians, when he talks about the work of the enemy, which is the coming of the abomination of desolation, the son of perdition, through the image of the beast mentioned in Revelation 13. Woe to you who forge the wickedness, the fraud, when Satan will fool the whole world to make them think that he is the Almighty in a human vessel, claiming he is the Christ. Woe to you who forge the wickedness, the fraud, and the scorn, because against you there shall be a memorial for crimes. Woe to you, mighty ones that oppress the righteous with violence, for the day of your destruction is arriving. Indeed, it's arriving and real fast, as we can see, and that's why they are trying to get everything they can and take everything from the people. The day of your judgment. So woe to you, mighty ones that oppress the righteous with violence, for the day of your destruction is arriving, the day of your judgment. And at that time shall come numerous good days for the righteous, even during the period of your judgment, which is the day of Yahweh, the last 1,000 years, the Shabbat, when we will be ruling over this earth, and they will be pretty much in hell for 1,000 years until we go to the last day of judgment, in which they will be sent to the lake of fire. All right, so let me see what we have here. No, well, first Priscilla says, like the bull, lamb, and goat. Yeah, that's a good point. Then it says, Noah, why does it say condor? Aren't they unique to America? I'm sure Enoch would have been able to see more of nature than anyone else. But am I missing something? I found this, it may explain it. Condors are part of the family which contains the New World vultures, whereas the 15 species of Old World vultures are in the family that also includes hawks, eagles, and kites. The New World and Old World vultures evolved from different ancestors. However, they both are carrion eaters and have distinctive bare heads. It says kind of confirms that they will literally force. Oh, well, I guess that's something else, brother, right? Also, maybe you can I know some of you guys are reading a different translation. So in that case, does it also say condors? I mean, in all of them? Because that could be also part of the translation because of the fact that there are, like we're seeing, families of animals or species as this that tend to be called or have been called a different way according to language and region and all of that. So, but the in the context, we can see that he's referring pretty much to the bird that places its nest in the highest of all. So that's what he's making reference to. So that would mean, according to what he was saying, the condor would be the one that places the nest highest than all the birds. So we will be able to place our nest, our residence, way above it, meaning over the firmament. So that was pretty much the point there. Plus the fact that the eagles and the vultures, they are family. So it is also connected with what you sent regarding the condors. They are also family. So it has to do with the eagle wings to the chosen few, and the condor referring to how high we will go. Then it says Priscilla, I mean ram. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and also just in case lamb and goat, I said yes because lamb and goat refer to Mashiach, but dying for two feasts. The lamb as the feast of Pesach and the goat as the feast of Yom Kippur. But yeah, you could say like that also. The thing with the last death of Yonah, well, first of all, he's not really mentioned um, because the first and the last would be resurrected to live forever. And we know Yonah was resurrected twice. The third time he wasn't resurrected. So the focus is not on that third time because I repeat, he wasn't resurrected. He will be eventually, of course, but in human history, his life worked as a mirror of the coming of the first and the last. So that's why he would have died and resurrected twice. Kind of confirms that they will literally force the false Messiah. Force implies a very physical action, as in making a clone for the false Messiah. Exactly, no. Yeah, that's um, pretty much, yeah, what I think as well. And forge, also, they use it for giving shape to metal. And as we know, iron is the metal that represents Rome. Scripture talks about how the last kingdom would be a mix of iron and clay. So they will mix angels and humans. They will mix computers and the flesh, and they will mix Lucifer, Azazel, and Samael, pretty much in a body, the image of the beast. So also they would forge idols, and the image of the beast will be the ultimate idol, one that will speak and move and everything, which is what people have been waiting for all of the past 6,000 years. For all the idols have been um, just statues. So they will be fooled as they have been pretty much desiring. Good point also, Noch, regarding all the animals being pretty much close together. Although also remember when Yahweh revealed to Moshe regarding the pig and its qualities, it is mentioned that the pig is the only animal with that quality of being half pure, of in the outside appearing to be pure because of the split hoof, but in the inside not being pure because of the way it processes food. So that represents a person who acts as set apart or pure or good, yet inside is filled with evil, thinking things that he or she shouldn't, and well, and everything that that means. Also, representing how the person cannot discern between good and evil, or just doesn't do it, as in acts a certain way with people, but then acts a different way um, when not seen, or stuff like that. So um, the fact that Moshe was told that that was the only animal like that in the whole world, and Moshe did not travel the whole world, shows that he was receiving information from a higher power who knew all the animals of the world. Because after years and years, they have seen all the animals, and they have seen that only the pig and um, the family of the pig has that quality. So that is one of the signs that the Torah was given from a higher power that knew everything about this reality, for Moshe wouldn't been able to know all the animals. So it could also be possible with Hanok, but as you said, it was a little bit different, the earth before the flood. And yeah, Priscilla says that in her translation says vultures. So yeah, perhaps they wrote condors, because vultures just gives a negative connotation in a way, right? All right, so chapter 96. Um, so 1,000 years is 5 or 6 generations. Um, it depends on how you um, want to count a generation, because there are some who take 120 years, because that is the longest a person um, could live, pretty much because of what was decreed during the flood. Then that went down to 70, at the most 80 in the time of David. He mentions it. So a lot of people take that as the generation, 70 years. However, we also see that in the Exodus, it took 40 years for the generation to change. So some take 40 years as a generation. So in that case, we would have to take 1,000 years, but it depends, I repeat, on which one we want to take. Let's say we take the 70. In that case, it will be pretty much 14 generations. 14 generations. But if it was 40 years per generation, then it will be 25 generations. It's amazing to think of, even in this case, which are a lot more generations per 1,000 years, if we take a generation of 40 years. Um, but it's just 25 per 1,000 years. So if we take the lowest number, 40, which would give us more generations in in the entire history, which would be 7,000 years. And I'm even counting the Shabbat, which there will be life on this earth, and we will rule over it, thanks to the Father and Mashiach. So it will be 175 generations in 7,000 years if we take the 40 years. And that is amazing, because Yahweh speaks many times of thousands of generations being blessed because of our actions. So that is a promise over and over again in scriptures about eternal life, because he set up a world that would last 7,000 years. So where are the thousands of generations in a new reality, the new heavens and the new earth? That's right, Ron. No wonder why this book was removed. Yeah, it's very clear about who would be ruling and how they would be ruling. So continue with chapter 96, verse 1. Believe, O righteous ones, because the errant ones shall be shamed and shall perish in the day of the wickedness. Know, ye errant ones, that the Most High is watching for your destruction, and that the envoys of the heavens rejoice for your perdition. What will you do, errant ones, and where will you flee to in the day of the judgment? What will you do, errant ones, and where will you do? I mean, what will you do, errant ones, and where will you flee to in the day of the judgment, when you shall hear the murmur of the prayer of the righteous ones? You shall fare like those against whom these words shall be a testimony. Ye are workers of the iniquity. In those days, the prayers of the righteous shall arrive up to Yahweh, and the days of your judgment shall arrive for you. And every account concerning your iniquity shall be read before the set apart one and the righteous one. That obviously refers to Yahweh, the Almighty Creator, who is one but manifests as first and last. So therefore, it also refers to both manifestations. The set apart one, in this case, Yahushua, who was set apart from all sin. He even came from a virgin. And the righteous one, who through Mashiach becomes righteous and is able to bring righteousness to this world. Your faces shall be filled with shame, and he shall reject every word based in the wickedness. Woe unto you, ye errant ones who are in the midst of the sea or on dry land. Ye are those against whom an evil record exists. Look how it mentions those who live on the sea and on the land. We just read in the previous chapter, most of Revelation 12, and it mentioned woe to those who live on the sea and on the land. But it mentions a blessing to those who live in the heavens. So the chosen few will already be in the heavens, but woe to those who are in the sea, meaning the nations, and in the land, meaning the many who claim to believe but rejected the true doctrine when the two witnesses offered it. So woe unto you, errant ones who are in the midst of the sea or on dry land. Ye are those against whom an evil record exists. Woe to you who acquire silver and gold with the iniquity and say, we are become rich, possess a fortune and properties, and we have acquired all that we have desired. Like they are doing at the moment. They, no matter how much they get, is not enough for them, because now they are even stealing from poor people by taking away food, health, freedom, and well, that pretty much sums up everything, but they're doing it in many ways. So woe to you who acquire silver and gold with the iniquity. So this is important, because it doesn't mean that to acquire silver and gold is evil. It is evil if you do it through iniquity, which is how they have done it, because that's how they are. And because in this reality, that seems to be a quicker way. However, they also lose it if they are taking it according to the regulations of this reality. Once this reality is destroyed, so were their riches. So will their riches be destroyed. So woe to you who acquire silver and gold with the iniquity and say, we are become rich. Also, this also connects with those who acquire silver and gold through the false doctrine that leads to the false Messiah, also called the iniquity. And say we are become rich, like those of the prosperity doctrine, represented by Laodicea, the last congregation mentioned in Revelation 3. Possess fortune and properties. I was seeing something that came out through Project Veritas, how a journalist went undercover, and I guess, well, he had a talk with some people from Pfizer, and they came out and said a bunch of things. For instance, that natural immunity is way better by a long shot. And when I added that, but he says it pretty much, than the injection that they are offering. And he also said that right now, that company is running on that, on COVID pretty much. So all the money they're making, obviously, most of the money they're making is through um, the COVID fear in people. So they will continue to support it, promote it, as they have been doing. And that is not the only company, of course, but that's the one that came out in Project Veritas. If you want to see those videos or read about it. So they have become rich. They possess a fortune and properties by killing people, by lying, by stealing, and many other ways. And we have acquired all that we have desired. Yahweh is so good that since he knows that the wicked ones will go to hell for an eternity, and then, well, the lake of fire, of course, he gives them during this time what they desired, so that they cannot say anything in judgment, because they received what they desired and they still rejected their creator. So they will have to pay for all of that. Let us now make our plans happen, for we have accumulated silver. It fills our banks like water. You know how now water is being so important. Some have claimed that the last war will be because of water. But I repeat, which is the most important resource, natural resource. And that is why it is the representation of Mashiach, the most important spiritual resource that we have. So let us, that's what they say, and look how it fits with our time. It's amazing. Let us now make our plans happen, as in, let us now create the new world order. Let us now make the great reset, which is what they have been doing. Once they have accumulated silver and gold, now they say this: let us now make our plans happen, for we have accumulated silver. It fills our banks, which they own, like water. And our workers are numerous. Like water shall your fantasy spill out. That's beautiful. Your fantasy, their illusion, what they are expecting and think that they will accomplish will just spill out like water, because of the water of life. Something that also has been in my mind a lot throughout these days, that I've been seeing how fast the New World Order is going, is that Daniel 2 tells us about the stone that will come down from heaven and destroy the last kingdom. But before mentioning that stone, well, it mentions it, then it explains it in the middle. We see that Yahweh will establish his kingdom while the 10 horns of the beast as are still on this world ruling. So while they are preparing their new world order, in fact, Yahweh is setting up his kingdom. So that is an amazing thought. A lot of people believe, well, Christians believe that they will be raptured, taken out, then this destruction will begin on this earth. Others believe that all the destruction has to happen in order for the good things to begin to happen. But Yahweh tells us, while they are working on their new world order, I will be establishing the kingdom. And that is in Daniel 2, in case you want to read it, and it's very important. So it is beautiful to see this here also. Like water shall your fantasy spill out. It won't last. And you know how fast time is going. So 3.5 years for the abomination of desolation to rule is pretty much nothing. Like water shall your fantasy spill out, because your wealth will not remain. Rather, it shall suddenly fly from you. Two things. One, since the economy will go down, I was reading, it will affect all coins pretty much, even Bitcoin. So a lot of people who may have a lot of money, when the economy goes down, that money will have no value. So also, your wealth will not remain, rather it shall suddenly fly from you. One of the reasons why there is wealth in this reality is because the blessing of Yahweh is in this reality, which falls in this world. One of the reasons is because of those who follow him. But once he takes from this reality those who follow him, so will the wealth of this reality fly with us. Just like the eagle flies from the serpent in Revelation 12, flies from the serpent in Revelation 12. Rather, it shall suddenly fly from you. Just like the serpent goes after the eagle, well, after the woman who receives eagle wings and then flies from the presence of the serpent. And that is a time when pretty much, just like we see in scriptures, how the mercy of Yahweh is so great that if there are a certain amount of righteous people in a city and the rest of the city is very sinful, but just because of a certain amount and small amount of righteous people are there, he won't destroy the city. He won't destroy the wicked ones. But if the righteous are taken out of the city or of the place, then the place can be destroyed. For instance, when Sodom and Gomorrah were burned, Yahweh came and spoke with Abraham. Abraham asked him if there were 50, 40, 30, etc., etc. Would you save the town? And Yahweh said, I will. But there were not even 10, only one, that was Lot. So he took him out of Sodom and Gomorrah and then burned the city. Yahushua said that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Lot. So when the chosen few are taken out of this world, taken to the higher reality, then this world will be completely vulnerable for the last plagues to fall on it and destroy everything within it, because there won't be any righteous ones stopping the punishment, pretty much, through the mercy of Yahweh, of course. So, like water shall your fantasy spill out, because your wealth will not remain, rather it shall suddenly fly from you, because you have obtained it with the iniquity, and ye shall be delivered up to a great curse. Ye shall be delivered up to a great curse. Then it says, and now I swear before you. These verses are interesting and further confirms that we are in this time. And now I swear before you, for the wise as well as the simpletons, that ye shall have strange sights on the land, because you men shall put on more jewelry than a wife, and more brightly colored clothing than a girl. Isn't that amazing? Which is, I repeat, exactly what is happening nowadays. And more brightly colored clothing than a girl. One of the reasons that is to call attention. And that has been a bit more of a female feature. But now a lot of males want that attention. So they do things like this or many others, but also the many colors, like those of the rainbow, which they actually use to represent LGBTQ and all of that. So I swear before you, for the wise as well as the simpletons, that ye shall have strange sights on the land. Because you men shall put on more jewelry than a wife. And we see also a lot of men using jewelry, many types of it, even some who may not dress as women, but do use a lot of jewelry to show that they have a lot of money, which is another way of calling attention, of course. In Judaism, it is said that the root of the soul of the woman is honor. So that's why attention is part of it, meaning um, the root. And that's why compliments are more, well, should normally a compliment comes from a man to a woman. Women do not tend to give much compliments, and when they do and give a compliment to a man, men normally don't feel that comfortable with it because it's just not as natural as complimenting the woman. So I mean, obviously it's nice to hear something good about yourself being said by the person that you love or whatever, but my point is just not, normally the woman uh, receives, the man gives. So when it comes to compliments, is the same way. The man gives compliments to the woman, she receives them and feels better because that is part of the root of the soul. And I say all of that because they have been mixing everything and trying to make males be like or act like females and females act like males, and we see it everywhere nowadays, sadly. And I mean everywhere, mainly through entertainment and all of that, because really, when it comes to reality, you go outside and all of that, you don't see it that much, depending on where you are, where you go, who your friends are, and all of that. So the fact that it was saying here, because you men shall put on more jewelry than a wife, that thing that I was saying regarding the root of the soul of the woman, they also say in Judaism that, and that I don't know, it's kind of funny or interesting. I don't know that there is a connection between precious stones and the soul of the woman, and that is one of the reasons why they like jewelry, like we see here. Um, Obviously, I know not all women are like that, but my point is that I hope not that this that I'm saying is not interpreted in the wrong way, because depending on the woman, if she's prudent, if she's wise, she will have those qualities in the right way, and therefore will be a good thing for her and her partner and her family and all of that. If she's not wise and prudent, then she will be uh, seeking um, money pretty much and become like many women are called gold diggers, for instance. So that has to do obviously with the nature of Lilith, the evil women of the world, or Hava, the righteous women of the world, like Sarah and Rivka and Rachel and Leah, etc. So there are two types of women. Everybody knows that, but both have a type of soul that has a root connected to honor, and depending on how they manage it, if it becomes a good thing for her or a bad thing. So going back to that, that is one of the reasons why it says here, because you men shall put on more jewelry than a wife. It was normal for a woman to use jewelry, not for a man. That's why he says you will have strange sights. And we have been seeing this for a while already. So much so that now it's normal for a lot of people. And more brightly colored clothing than a girl. They shall be spilled like water among the royals, among the great, among those in authority, in silver, in gold, and in purple, and in splendor, and in delicacies. I find this interesting. They shall be spilled like water among the royals. Those who claim to be royals nowadays are said to be um, hybrids, Nephilim, pretty much. And it is said that they actually drink blood and also, adrenochrome, which is a drug made through the adrenaline mixed with the blood. of people when they go through trauma and other things. So I find interesting here that it says, they shall be spilled like water among the royals, among the great, among those in authority, in silver and gold and in purple and in splendor. And look also how it says silver, gold, purple. Purple is connected to royalty, but also we see silver, gold, and purple when it comes to the great whore of Babylon in Revelation. Since they shall lack knowledge and wisdom, and for this they shall be destroyed, together with their properties, their worth, and their splendor. This is also very important. Since they shall lack knowledge and wisdom. A lot of people believe that the people they are seeing on TV, the politicians, the scientists, the doctors, they believe they are wise. And they are not if they are fooling everybody, if they are deceiving everybody, if they are lying in order to get money, power, whatever. They are not really wise, because the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh. So anybody who does not fear Yahweh clearly is not wise. So also remember, there are two types of wisdom, the heavenly wisdom and the evil wisdom. So they may have evil wisdom, but that is just a dark reflection of the true wisdom. So it's not real because it's just temporal while this reality exists. So once all wisdom is revealed, then that will be clearly shown to be evil and worthless. And they have no knowledge of the truth. So whatever knowledge they have of a certain matter of life, whatever it may be, how to make money, how to lie to people to be a politician, how to mix chemicals, etc. No matter what knowledge they may have on that, if they don't have knowledge of the truth of the Creator, they have nothing, because it is disconnected from the root, so he won't give fruit. Being the root, the Creator, and anything that he created having to be connected with him in order to give fruit. So if they don't connect with the Creator, whatever knowledge they have will not work for anything other than deceiving the people, once again, through evil wisdom. So since they shall lack knowledge and wisdom, and for this they shall be destroyed, together with their properties, their worth, and their splendor. So with humiliation, massacre, and great scarcity, their spirit shall be cast into a burning furnace. Remember how it started talking about people who, well, males who act like females, which is something that is happening a lot nowadays, and that even a lot of the politicians, leaders of the world practice it. They just don't show it to the masses because the masses would not support them. So with humiliation, massacre, and great scarcity, their spirit shall be cast into a burning furnace. I swear before you, errant ones, that just as a mountain does not cover, I swear before you, errant ones, that just as a mountain does not convert into a slave, nor a heel converts into a maidservant, thus the error has not been sent down to us unto the earth. So here in parentheses, they write homosexuality because it was what it was mentioned earlier as the error that they would start committing. But look also how even without that parenthesis there, well, obviously, if we keep the context, we will realize what it is. But look at this verse 12. I swear before you, errant ones, that just as a mountain does not convert into a slave, it would be a saying, a male cannot convert into a female. A female cannot convert into a male, no matter what they say, claim, or whatever. Only two sexes, because this world was created with duality, not more than that. So male and female. right and left, up and down, front and back, hot and cold, day and night, etc., etc. But since they don't believe in a creator, they don't believe in order, so they don't believe that everything has a reason to be. As in, if you were born with a penis, is because you are a male and that's what you should become, instead of hoping to live an illusion because for whatever reason, not understanding um, your reason for being in this world, end up deciding to live, I repeat, in a fantasy, in an illusion, claiming to be something or someone you're not. So I swear before you, errant ones, that just as a mountain does not convert into a slave, nor a heel converts into a maid servant, thus the error has not been sent down to us unto the earth. Rather, man has invented it of their own heads, and whoever facilitates it shall fall under a great curse. That's interesting because the world, teachers, politicians, everybody is facilitating the sin of homosexuality as a good thing, as something to be proud of, so much so that they make a whole event called Pride. Thus the error, and this is huge also, this is one of the reasons why this sin is abominable, because this is the only reality where duality exists. So the sin of homosexuality can only happen in this reality. So it did not come from the heavens, unlike the other sins that the angels brought down when they fell. Homosexuality was something that was created from the wickedness of the flesh, because only in this reality there are two sexes. So thus the error has not been sent down to us unto the earth. Rather, man has invented it of their own heads, and whoever facilitates it shall fall under a great curse. And as we know, plenty of the people who are homosexuals became homosexuals by being abused by somebody else when they were children. So imagine the punishment they deserve, those who were facilitating or bringing people through that type of abuse into a sin like this. So thus the error has not been sent down to us unto the earth, rather man has invented it of their own heads, and whoever facilitates it shall fall under a great curse. It isn't that barrenness was given to the woman, rather it is because of the work of his hands that he dies childless. So it isn't that barrenness was given to the woman, meaning Yahweh has not given people evil things. It was people who, because of their evil ways, created them within them. So when a person is barren, it's not because Yahweh is mean, it's because the person has to rectify something in order to be able to have a child, for instance. It isn't that barrenness was given to the woman, rather it is because of the work of his hands that he dies childless. And also in this case, obviously having to do with homosexuality, obviously a person who is a homosexual and lives that way will die childless. There are a lot who obviously try to act like they are not, so they may have a child and Yahweh may allow it so that they can be then condemned for that as well, for being so evil, pretty much, of bringing somebody into this world not because of love, but because of a cover. It isn't that barrenness was given to the woman, rather it is because of the work of his hands that he dies childless. So therefore he dies childless because he is not with a woman, he is with a man. I swear to you, errant ones, by the set apart one and the great one, that all your evil deeds are disclosed in the heavens, and that none of your oppressive acts are concealed or secret. Do not think by your spirit, nor say in your hearts that you did not know or did not see that every crime is inscribed daily in heaven before the presence of the Most High. Thenceforward shall it be manifested, for every act of oppression that you commit shall be recorded daily until the period of your condemnation. Woe to you, senseless ones, for you shall perish for your foolishness. This is sad because there are a lot of people in this way being senseless. They cannot sense that they are in the end. They cannot sense that they are trying to kill them with the supposed medicine. They are senseless. They have no common sense. As I say in one of my songs, common sense is no longer common, which is very sad. Woe to you, senseless ones, for you shall perish for your foolishness. You did not listen to the wise, just like the many will not listen to the few. They will not listen to the witnesses. You did not listen to the wise, and the good lot shall not be your inheritance. So the good lot of the chosen few, being kings and priests, you did not listen to the wise, and the good lot shall not be your inheritance. Now, therefore, know that you have been prepared for the day of destruction. Therefore, do not expect to survive. When it comes to the many, they are expecting a rapture, but since they have acted foolishly, rejecting the doctrine of Mashiach coming from the wise, they will have to die during the Great Tribulation, during the 30 days of Hosea 5:7. Now, therefore, know that you have been prepared for the day of destruction. Therefore, do not expect to survive yourselves, errant ones, rather to fall away and die, because you shall not know redemption. Redemption is to be bought, for instance, from the slave master in order to be freed, like Yahweh did when we were in Egypt as slaves. So they will not know redemption, for they will have to be killed in order to be freed from that arrangement that they fell into because of foolishness or because of error. So therefore, do not expect to survive yourselves, errant ones, rather to fall away and die, because you shall not know redemption. Here there are two comments from, I guess, earlier in this. Okay. It says, and with a male you shall not lie with instead of lying with a wife, that is detestable, right? From Leviticus 18:22. Then it says from 20:13, and a man which is not, and a man which is one who lies with a male instead of one lying with a wife is detestable. Both of them have worked it, surely they shall die. Their bloodshed is upon you. Verse 19. Since ye are prepared for the day of the great judgment, for the day of the great tribulation and of the great shame for yourselves. I repeat, even the many fit in this description, because they will be ashamed when they realize that they fell for the lie for so long until they end up rejecting the mark of the beast, so they are killed. Since ye are prepared for the day of the great judgment, for the day of the great tribulation and of the great shame for yourselves. Woe to you, hardened in heart, who forge the wickedness, yet feed on blood. Woe to you, hardened in heart, who forged the wickedness, yet feed on blood. As I was saying earlier, before we see that parenthesis there, the Illuminati, the powers that be, actually feed on blood. I know it sounds like science fiction, but it's something that they do and they have been doing for a long time. So this in the literal is referring to them, of course, but in the spiritual can be seen as those who partake of the bread and the wine representing his flesh and his blood. So they do believe in his death and resurrection, yet they don't believe in his name, in his word. So they do not receive salvation according to what we read in Romans 10:10 regarding confession of his name in order to receive salvation. While for justification, there is the belief in the heart. So they only believe in their hearts, but have no salvation, for they have no confession with their mouths. So here it says, believe on his resurrection, the new covenant in his blood. So woe to you, hardened in heart, who forged the wickedness, yet feed on blood. So it will be like saying, in spiritual sense, those who accept and work to bring the false Messiah, the wickedness, yet take the blood of Mashiach, meaning his testimony. And I repeat, that could be taken regarding the many when it comes to having the believe in their hearts that Mashiach came and died for them. So then it says, hence is it that you feed on good things, drink, and are satiated. Is it not because Yahweh, the Most High, has abundantly supplied every good thing upon earth? Which, interestingly enough, they're trying to destroy and hide so that they can create a famine. Hence is it that you feed on good things, drink, and are satiated. Is it not because Yahweh the Most High has abundantly supplied every good thing upon earth? For you there shall not be shalom. Woe to you who love the iniquity. Why did ye promise happiness? Like what they are saying nowadays, that to be able to reach happiness, to be able to go back to normal, which now they're saying there will be no going back to normal. Instead, there will be a new normal. They're promising happiness if they get an injection and then a booster and then another one and another one. Yet is not what they are actually doing, meaning they are not bringing happiness. They're bringing death to those people. So woe to you who love the iniquity, the false Messiah, Satan, sin. Woe to you who love the iniquity. Why did ye promise happiness? Know that ye shall be loosed into the hands of the righteous, who shall cut off your heads, slay you, and show you no pity. Woe to you who rejoice at the trouble of the righteous, for no grave shall be dug for you. Interesting, because we see that when they killed the two witnesses, and the whole world, according to Revelation 11, will rejoice for their death, they won't give them a grave. They will leave their bodies on top of the surface of the earth for everybody to mock them for 3.5 days. So since they will do that to them, to the two witnesses, now they won't receive a grave either. So woe to you who rejoice at the trouble of the righteous, for no grave shall be dug for you. Woe to you who do not maintain at all the word of the righteous. Here you see a title, woe to those who alter scripture to deny his name. Remember that according to Revelation 19:13, the name of the Son is the word of Yahweh. And the word of Yahweh, Yahushua, is the name that saves the righteous, who become righteous through their belief in his death and resurrection. So woe to you who do not maintain at all the word of the righteous. So woe to those who actually try to hide the word of the righteous. Because for you there exists no hope of life. Those who actually try to hide the word won't have any hope during judgment day. Instead, they will go straight to the lake of fire. And look how it fits with the next verse. I'll repeat the 23rd. Woe to you who do not maintain at all the word of the righteous, because for you there exists no hope of life. Woe to you who write down the word of the lie. If Yahushua is the truth, then, for instance, Jesus is the lie, because Jesus is not the true name of the Mashiach. So it is a lie. And if that is the one everybody worships as the truth, then that is the lie. And not only that, it even has an image. So not only a name, but an image. And scripture says that any name that has an image will be destroyed. It is written in the prophets. So woe to you who write down the word of the lie. So woe to them who do not maintain at all the word of Yahweh. Instead, they write down the word of the lie. So they change the name of the Father and the Son for that of the enemy and the false Messiah. Woe to you who do not maintain at all the word of the righteous, because for you there exists no hope of life. In contrast with, well, here you see John 20:31. Through the word of Yahweh, we have a hope of life. So I would read Yohanan 20:31. It says, but these, I'll read from the 30. There were indeed many other signs that Yahushua did in the presence of his taught ones, which are not written in this book. But these have been written so that you believe that Yahushua is the Messiah, the son of Elohim, the son of Yahweh. And that believing you might possess life in his name. You might possess life in his name. So those who do not receive his name and instead change it for the lie have no hope for life. Woe to you who do not maintain at all the word of the righteous, because for you there exists no hope of life. Woe to you who write down the word of the lie and irreverent words, as in not only the false name, but also false doctrine. Because they record their lies in order that the people may heed them and that they do harm to their neighbor. So obviously this also connects with the fact that they are completely lying on TV regarding, for instance, the injection, regarding COVID, regarding the deaths of the people, the reasons why they die, etc. A bunch of things they're lying about. They lie in schools, they lie on the media, everywhere. So woe to you who write down the word of the lie in irreverent words, because they record their lies in order that the people may heed them and that they do harm to their neighbor. Nowadays, if they're starting to segregate those who are injected from those who are not, and that is bringing pretty much a lot of hate from those who are not injected towards those, from those who are injected towards those who are not. Like it happened with the Nazis when they started hating a group of people and then killed them. So, therefore, for them there shall be no shalom, because they lie in order to bring division, to bring harm to their neighbor. Therefore, for them there shall be no shalom. Rather, they shall suddenly perish. Scripture says that the earth will be inherited by those who are seeking peace. Yet these who control the world are seeking war, destruction, division. So that's why they will suddenly perish. As it is written regarding the time when they killed the two witnesses, it says, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction shall fall upon them. So it says here, rather they shall suddenly perish. And that's how that chapter ends. All right, from verse 12, I get that mountain represent male and hill a female. Yeah. In fact, in scriptures, a mountain in the, well, in pretty much general sense, represents a kingdom. But in having to do with the patriarchs, for instance, it represents Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, while the hills represent Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. So yeah, a mountain represents a male, a hill represents a female. Then it says Matthew 15:19. Let me check it out. Matthew 15:19 says, for out of the heart come forth wicked reasonings, murders, adulteries, whorings, thefts, false witnessings, slanders. That's right. It says on verse 13, can't we interpret the error as the false Messiah? Jesus was invented by men. He didn't come from above. Verse 13, let me see. Thus the error has not been sent down to, oh, well, good point. Yeah, that's a great point, brother. Because remember that we see in scriptures that, and in fact, so sad. I do need to get on it, but the second book that is on the works has to do with the name. And in it, I actually make that connection of how by worshiping in an idol, the person is pretty much falling into spiritual homosexuality, because being a creation, worshiping a creation is as a male having sex with a male. The creation must worship the creator, just as a female must have sex or, well, have sexual relations with a male, which is the representation of Mashiach coming for his congregation for the wedding of the Lamb. So yeah, there is a clear connection. Plus the scripture talks about the spirit of truth coming from Yahushua and the spirit of error coming from the false Messiah. John, the book of John 14:26 says that the spirit of truth comes through the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. So the spirit of the lie comes through the false name, of course. So thus the error has not been sent down to us unto the earth. That was something made up by men. And another part that I write in the book is regarding how since Yahweh created us in his image and likeness, and he created everything through faith, for he only said, let there be, and there was. So he gave us an amount of faith, and the enemy has taken advantage of the amount of faith that people have and that they have placed on him, Lucifer, the God of this world, in order for him to bring into this world the reality that he wishes, one in which he will be worshipped by humans. So he pretty much used the faith, which is the power to create in humans, in order to create a lie that will destroy the world pretty much, because it's completely the opposite of the truth. So thus the error has not been sent down to us unto the earth. That's right. Rather, man has invented it of their own heads, and whoever facilitates it, it shall fall under a great curse. That's important. Also, whoever preaches of the false name and the false doctrine, even more once they know the falsehood of it, they will fall under a great curse. Even what's next, it isn't barrenness that was given to the woman. In that sense, we could be speaking of the congregation. If it doesn't give food, true food spiritually is not, because they have the name that doesn't, I mean, if they are barren, not being able to give fruit, is pretty much because they have the spirit of error, which cannot give life. They have the spirit of the enemy instead of having the spirit of truth, which will give fruit. So it isn't that barrenness was given to the woman, rather it is because of the work of his hands that he dies childless. So yeah, in that line, we can continue the whole thing. But yeah, that was a great point. No. And it says, Jay, like Woody Allen, who adopted that little Asian girl, then he married her. That's right, bro. Amazing. What do you think he was doing to her before? Exactly. Christian says, none of your uh, oppressive acts, I believe, are concealed or secret. That's right. As we see in Luke 8:17 and Luke 12:2. I'll just read Luke 8:17 real quick. At verse 7, chapter 97, verse 1. Woe to you who act irreverently. Ye praise the word of falsehood. So look how it gets into it once again. If the word of Yahweh is the word of truth, for Yahushua is the word, and he said, I am the truth. For in the beginning was the word, and the word was with Elohim, and the word was Elohim. And we know that everything was created through the word, for Yahweh said, let there be light, which is words, and then light was created. And in fact, Yahushua himself, the word said also, I am the light. So through the word, the light comes to show the truth. And they are all connected, of course. Woe to you who act irreverently, ye praise the word of falsehood. Sadly, those who praise a name of falsehood, a false name for the truth, meaning a name for a false Messiah, when they praise a falsehood, they are acting irreverent, of course. Here is a comment, and it says, Jesus, Yeshua, Yeshua, Yahushua, Yahu, Yahushua, Yeshua, Jehovah, Yahweh, etc. So the many different false names that they praise nowadays. Woe to you who act irreverently, ye praise the word of falsehood and exalt it. Ye shall perish and have never led a virtuous life. This is interesting because these would refer to people who believe to live a virtuous life because of what they believe in. But when they realize that they believe in a lie and therefore practice falsehood, their worth will mean nothing, meaning it will become worthless. Their works, because they were working for a different power or lack of power. So, woe to you who act irreverently, ye praise the word of falsehood and exalt it. Ye shall perish and have never led a virtuous life. Woe to those who pervert the words of truth, like the name of the Father and the Son, and obviously the entire scriptures through false translations. Woe to those who pervert the words of truth, even through wrong interpretations. Woe to those who pervert the words of truth because they distort, that would be a wrong interpretation right there, because they distort the everlasting law. Because they distort the everlasting law. And they are converted into what they were not. So they make the scripture something that is false by changing the names in certain words in order to change the message. And they are converted into what they were not. They shall be trampled upon the earth. In those days, be ready, O righteous, to raise your prayers and to deposit them as a testimony before the envoy, so that they can record the errors of the errant ones before the Most High. In Revelation 8, when the seventh seal is opened, we see that the Malachim add to the incense the prayers of the righteous. in order for the trumpets to happen, and therefore the seventh trumpet with the chosen few are gathered. So in those days, be ready, O righteous, to raise your prayers and to deposit them as a testimony before the envoys, so that they can record the errors of the errant ones before the Most High. In those days, the nation shall be overthrown, but the families of the people shall rise again in the day of perdition. So in those days, the nations shall be overthrown as they are being overthrown at the moment, but there's still more to happen, for it to be completed pretty much. But the families of the people shall rise again in the day of perdition. In those days, those who become pregnant shall go out and carry off their children and shall forsake them, and their offspring shall perish. Which is part of what Mashiach said regarding those who are of the world, who would suffer a lot when they have children in this time because of the pain that is coming. So many will not keep their children. And we know also of abortion, which they are now doing to children after being born, which shouldn't be called abortion, but that's how crazy this world is. So in those days, those who become pregnant shall go out and carry off their children and shall forsake them, and their offspring shall perish. They shall even abandon their suckling infants. They shall not return to them, and they shall not have pity on their beloved ones. So like I said, this is happening at the moment. And a lot of people support this and protest for this. And there are even such evil people that call this a blessing and an act of love. In fact, let me see if I can find a video I just saw a few days ago. Let me see if I find it so I can show it. But this doesn't go that far. What I was mentioning was a video of a woman with authority saying that in front of a lot of people and people clapping. In this case, look at this article, for instance, abortion as a blessing, grace, or gift. So yeah, that's how bad it is. So it's, I was saying, that connects with what we are being told here. It is a sign of our time. Sadly, it has become normal. The new generation sees abortion as a gift, as a blessing, as an act of love, like I said, another woman was saying. And it says here, in those days, those who become pregnant shall go out and carry off their children and shall forsake them, and their offspring shall perish. They shall even abandon their suckling infants. They shall not return to them, and they shall not have pity on their beloved ones. They do not have pity. They don't know what that is. Abortion provider testifies that abortion saves lives when he actually is killing. Like, I mean, it's amazing. They call good evil and evil good. Abortion is killing a life. I mean, killing a baby. Yet they are saying it saves lives. Is freedom an act of love? Act of love.
SB8 has not only caused a near total abortion ban in Texas, it has made it extremely dangerous to be pregnant in Texas, where our maternal morbidity and mortality rate is already unconscionably high, especially for Black women and pregnant people of color. Texas deserves better. I know firsthand that abortion saves lives. For the thousands of people I've cared for, abortion is a blessing. Abortion is an act of love. Abortion is freedom. We need federal protection now. We need laws that elevate science and evidence and recognize the dignity and autonomy of people accessing care. The Women's Health SB8 has not only caused.
So yeah. So I'll continue with the chapter. We were on verse 6, I guess, right? In those days, those who become pregnant shall go out and carry off their children and shall forsake them, and their offspring shall perish. They shall even abandon their suckling infants. They shall not return to them, and they shall not have pity on their beloved ones. Again, I swear to you, errant ones, that the error is right for the day of the unceasing spilling of blood. Again, I swear to you, errant ones, that the error is ripe. This is important because it connects with the harvest. That's why it mentions being ripe for harvest, as the grapes, which are ripe and are taken to the winepress of the wrath of Yahweh on Revelation 14, where the unceasing spilling of blood will happen, which will reach the brakes of the horses, which are called, and see here in Revelation 14, it says, and the winepress, all right, and the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the bridles of the horses, up to the bridles of the horses for about 1,600 stadia. So all that blood up to the bridles of the horses will come out of the winepress of the wrath of Yahweh, from the grapes that he will place there, which are the many. Going back to Hanoch. Again, I swear to you, Aaron, ones, that the error is ripe for the day of the unceasing spilling of blood. Those who worship stones and those who manufacture images of gold, those who worship stones and those who manufacture images of gold, silver, wood, or clay, and those who worship impure spirits or gods and every kind of worshipped image without discernment, no help will arrive for them. This is important because that means that there will be a help that will arrive for some, but not for them. And that has to do with the few who will flee to the mountains, the second Exodus, and then will receive help from Yahweh by receiving the eagle wings in order to flee from the presence of the serpent, as we read in Revelation 12. So again, I swear to you, errant ones, that the error is ripe for the day of the unceasing spilling of blood, which will begin with the 30 days of Hosea 5:7, when the many will die, but then we'll have the nations. The many will die, from whom many will be justified because of their belief, but then a lot of more people will die during the last 3.5 years when the 7 last plagues happen. Those who worship stones and those who manufacture images of gold, silver, wood, or clay, and those who worship impure spirits or gods, which would be through those idols, and even without a statue or image of gold, there are people who worship other spirits. Those who worship stones and those who manufacture images of gold, silver, wood, or clay, and those who worship impure spirits or gods and every kind of worshipped image without discernment, no help will arrive for them. They won't get any help. When the time comes, they will be killed. They fall into irreverence due to the foolishness of their hearts. Sadly, you know how they say in this society, follow your heart. Yet the scripture tells us the opposite. The heart is the most deceitful thing of all. So we must connect it to the intellect represented by the brain. The heart is in the body. So we cannot act without a head, without intellect. So just like Eve, without talking to Adam, using the imagination, following her heart, ended up eating the fruit of knowledge. Unlike her, we must use our intellect, meaning respect, common sense, the commandments of Yahweh, what intellect represents, in order for us not to fall for emotion, feelings. We must use those feelings and emotions and connect them with the intellect, common sense, logic, in order to come to a decision, a judgment. But since they follow their hearts, they are deceived because they only want the, like when they go to church, as they call it, they only want to hear the good things that Yahweh promises, but they don't want to hear the bad things that they are doing or the things that they must change in order to receive those things which they want so much. They fall into irreverence due to the foolishness of their hearts. Their eyes are blind to the fear of their hearts. Their eyes are blind to the fear of their hearts. This is amazing. Look how it fits nowadays. Their eyes are blind to the fear of their hearts. Their hearts are so afraid of dying that their eyes are blind of the fact that they are trying to kill them with the supposed medicine. They are so blind because of COVID that they are willing to accept whatever, even being part of an experiment. And then they get mad at us for trying to tell them about it, as if we are the ones in error. So their eyes are blind to the fear of their hearts and to the vision of their dreams, because of the dreams they have regarding their own lives, because of the things that they want to accomplish, which they haven't yet. And they feel that because of COVID, that could come to an end. Then they are willing to accept whatever they are told in order to, according to their view, being able to achieve their dreams. Obviously, here has to do also with nightmares, pretty much. The visions that they receive when they are asleep. Their eyes are blind to the fear of their hearts and to the vision of their dreams. That is why they become irreverent and terrible. Because of fear, they become so terrible. It is hard to talk to them and tell them about the end times and about what we should do according to what scripture says, because they get mad. They don't want to hear that the end is coming, so they turn against us instead of realizing that we are just the messengers. That is why they become irreverent and terrible, because with all their work, they have forged a trick and have worshipped a stone. Because with all their work, they have forged a trick. That's what the false Messiah is, a trick. He will fool everybody through magic. And you know how they use the term trick in the street also to refer to a prostitute, for instance. And I say that because we know of the church that will bring forth the false Messiah. It's called the great whore of Babylon, who will make the greatest trick of all by fooling humanity. That is why they become irreverent and terrible, because with all their work, they have forged a trick and have worshipped a stone. It says here, one example of stone worship is Allah. That is a great point. The black silver framed stone which devout Muslims kiss during their pilgrimage to the Kaaba in Mecca. It was an image worshipped by Muhammad's family, the only one he did not destroy from Kaaba. It is believed that that stone is mentioned in scriptures. I already said it in previous studies. In scriptures, we read about the pagans that worship Diana and worship the stone that fell from Jupiter. So it is believed that that is the same stone which is being worshipped nowadays by Muslims. But that is the literal sense of this verse, of them worshiping a stone. But whatever statue they made of stone fits, of course. So a lot of people worship stone. That is why they become irreverent and terrible, because with all their work, they have forged a trick and have worshipped the stone. They shall perish in an instant. Instead, in those days, blessed shall be those who accept the words of wisdom and understand them. That is wonderful. In those days, it doesn't say after those days. So it doesn't say after everybody goes through hell, then some will have paradise. No, it says while some are going through hell, the few will receive a paradise. Instead, in those days, blessed shall be those who accept the words of wisdom and understand them. Not only have the words Yahweh and Yahushua, but also understand what they mean and what it means to believe in them. They mean he who causes existence, and he who caused existence saves. And what does it mean to believe in them? It is to follow and fulfill their commandments. Instead, in those days, blessed shall be those who accept the words of wisdom and understand them, who point out and follow the way of the Most High, who point out meaning those who testify of Mashiach, because Mashiach is the way of life, the way of the Most High. So those who give testimony of Mashiach are pointing out the way to Yahweh. So who point out and follow the way of the Most High, who walk in the way of his righteousness, meaning who fulfill his commandments, and who do not convert to the irreverence with the irreverent, because they shall be saved. So look, once again, salvation for the 144,000. Unlike justification for the many who have to die first. So once again, instead, in those days, blessed shall be those who accept the words of wisdom and understand them, who point out and follow the way of the Most High, who walk in the way of his righteousness, and who do not convert to the irreverence with the irreverent, because they shall be saved. Woe to you who disseminate the wickedness among your neighbors, for ye shall stay dead in Sheol. Woe to you who disseminate the wickedness among your neighbors. Like, for instance, those places in which they are, well, they will, some cases, I guess they're starting already to go throughout neighborhoods injecting people. And that's just an example, because there's also those who go through the neighborhood preaching falsehood, like the witnesses of the lie, or witnesses of Jehovah's Witnesses. Woe to you who disseminate the wickedness among your neighbors, for ye shall stay dead in Sheol. Those who want to kill people will end up dead. Woe to you who lay the foundation of fraud and deceit, those who have been teaching the false doctrine, which becomes the foundation of the false Messiah. For if Yahushua HaMashiach is our foundation, the cornerstone, then the false Messiah is their cornerstone, and it is placed through the false teaching, the false doctrine. Woe to you who lay the foundation of fraud and deceit, and who provoke the rebellion upon the earth, for by it you shall be consumed. They don't know that that which they are creating will consume them as well. When it comes to the Illuminati, they are preparing, well, when it comes to the beast, be the same thing, but according to scriptures, called the beast, will prepare an image in order to deceive the whole world. But they don't know that that image will end up destroying the whole world, including them. Woe to you who lay the foundation of fraud and deceit, and who provoke the rebellion upon the earth, for by it you shall be consumed. Woe to you who build your houses by the labor of others, like they are doing nowadays. In this case, he writes in the parentheses denominations, and it fits when it comes to the spiritual, but in the physical also, the powers that be obviously don't do anything other than figure out ways to steal what they have from society, from the rest of people. Woe to you who build your houses by the labor of others, every part of which is constructed with brick and with the stone of crime. We see when they built the Tower of Babel, they were in a place where there were no stones, so they started to make bricks in order to build it. So the brick is connected to the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Confusion, rebellion. So woe to you who build your houses by the labor of others, every part of which is constructed with brick. So their constructions, their houses, their churches, their temples, their lives are built on brick, which represents rebelliousness, represents confusion. So they build on lies and theft. And with the stone of crime, So the fact that they build with bricks connects with the fact that the Tower of Babel was created with bricks. So with confusion, false Messiah. So it says here, not living stones. So for instance, the fact that they build temples, they are still stuck in the letter. So to them, a temple is a building. Even though some of them even teach that the temple is the body, they still see the building as the temple. So they fool themselves, just like they did before Messiah. As when Messiah said, destroy the temple and I will raise it up in 3 days, he was referring to his body, but they didn't understand it. They thought it was the actual temple of stone. So every part of which is constructed with brick, not living stone. So they are not giving the spirit to the people for them to become the temple. Instead, they are taken from people in order to build temples. And with stone of crime, like the false Messiah, who is a stone, but that will bring death. Stone of crime will bring the abolishment of the commandments of Yahweh, of the Torah. That's why he is the lawless one. And with the stone of crime, I tell you that you shall not obtain shalom. I tell you that you shall not obtain shalom. Woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers. Woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers. You remember when Edom, Asaph, Yaakov's brother, despised the inheritance when he sold it for a plate of food to Yaakov. So he sold his inheritance for a plate of food, which meant that he didn't care about it, really. He didn't believe in the spiritual sense of it, which was what Yaakov wanted. So woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers. So woe to those who are like Asa, like Edom. Edom became many of the false Jewish people. The other ones are Khazars. The other part of Edom became Rome, which obviously connects with Catholicism. So they both despise the inheritance, because even though they have scriptures and claim to believe in them, they don't read them. They don't actually believe in what they say. So they are despising the everlasting inheritance in order to have something in this reality, like power, money, etc. Woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers, and whose selves follow after the worshipped images, as we see happening in Rome a lot, meaning in Catholicism. In Judaism, they do worship the letter. They worship in a way knowledge, but they, through their worship of knowledge, and therefore through their worship of an idol, because whatever they worship other than the creator is pretty much an idol, even if it's knowledge itself. So through the worship of knowledge, they end up being blind and therefore do not understand that knowledge which they claim to have. And that's why what I was saying regarding how in Judaism there are so many teachings that actually confirm that Yahushua is the Messiah, yet they have so much hate for Yahushua that they cannot see those connections within the knowledge that they actually have. So woe to you who despise the extent of the everlasting inheritance of your fathers, and whose selves follow after the worshipped images, for they shall not have rest. For they shall have no rest. Woe to those who work iniquity, collaborate with the oppression, and assassinate their neighbor until the day of the great judgment. Assassinate their neighbor. I repeat, this is something that is being fulfilled in many ways. But one that I see is interesting is with the injection, because people claiming to, they are actually saying from pulpits and many other places that injecting yourself with that poison is a fulfillment of loving your neighbor, because they claim that if you don't get the injection, you can get other people killed. So if you get the injection, it's in order for like to save other people, according to what the way they are putting it. So they're claiming that getting the injection is loving your neighbor because that is how you will help them. When that obviously is not true because of many things. Because scripture also says that in order to love your neighbor, you must love yourself first. So if you love I mean, in the sense that you must love your neighbor as you love yourself. So you first must love yourself in order to be able to know how to love your neighbor. So if you love yourself, you won't get the injection. And since you love your neighbor, you tell them not to get it because you love yourself and you love your neighbor as yourself, so you don't get the poison. So it doesn't make sense how they are putting it, but they're putting it that way. And even from churches, because they are getting paid to say it, pastors are saying that. And also, I think I heard a congressman or saying it. I don't know if it was, I don't remember the name, but saying that it was a gift from God, that the injection was an answer to the prayers, an answer from God to the prayers. And that if they would get it, it would be a fulfillment of loving your neighbor. So they are twisting the words of Yahweh in order to get people killed, which is amazing. And a lot of people are telling their neighbors to get it and forcing their neighbors to get it and pushing their neighbors to get it, claiming it is for their own good. So for their own good, they are taking people's freedoms, which makes no sense whatsoever. Yahweh gave us free will, yet society is trying to take it away. If they can force this on people, they can force anything. They can force anything. And I hope we don't get blood. So woe to those who work iniquity, collaborate with the oppression, and assassinate their neighbor until the day of the great judgment. For he shall cast down your honor to the ground. He shall stir up his wrath, and he shall destroy all of you with the sword. They just made a documentary about Fauci. It is laughable. And I say that because it says here, for he shall cast down your honor to the ground. They are being worshipped by the people as if they were honorable. All of that honor will fall to the ground when truth comes out. He shall destroy all of you with the sword. Then all of the pure ones, all of the set apart ones and the righteous ones shall remember your errors. So the errors will be revealed and then we will remember them. So the confusion and the shame that they will have in the lake of fire will be eternal. And that's how that chapter ends. In those days, verse 1, chapter 98, verse 1. In those days, in one place shall the fathers and their sons be punished together, and brethren with their brethren shall fall by the death, until a river shall flow from their blood. We just read in the previous chapter from Revelation 12 how a river of blood pretty much will come out of the winepress of the wrath of Yahweh when the many, as the grapes of Revelation 14, are thrown in it. In those days, in one place, in this case, the winepress of the wrath of Yahweh. In those days, in one place shall the fathers and their sons be punished together, and brethren with their brethren shall fall by the death until a river shall flow from their blood. For a man will not be capable to restrain his own hand from assassinating his son and his grandson. This is sad and amazing. But as I was saying, once the chosen few are taken out of this world, then that which was protecting this reality will be taken away. So destruction will happen naturally, automatically. And as we know, one of the things that Yahweh would do when the enemies were coming against Israel was confuse them in order for them to kill each other, so that the army of Israel didn't have to do much other than pursuing them afterwards. So it says here, for a man will not be capable to restrain his own hand from assassinating his son and his grandson. So there are many ways in which this can happen, but we can see it nowadays. For once, like if I take it back to the injections, People are injecting poison into their loved ones, thinking that they are helping them. So they are not capable to change that thought because they are so programmed into thinking that that is what they should do. Another way is that people, a lot of people, mostly in these times, because they're not having the Ruach HaKodesh, they have no willpower. They cannot control themselves. So if they get angry, anger controls them. So they won't be capable to restrain their own hand from doing what they shouldn't. But then I repeat, there will be a time after the harvest in which people will have no love, no empathy. So they will kill each other, even if that other is their child. So for a man will not be capable to restrain his own hand from assassinating his son and his grandson. Remember also that it is believed through the injection because of the graphene, but also even if it's not the injection, but what it will turn to be when it turns to the mark of the beast. I repeat, if it's not yet. One of the things that the beast wants to do is to be able to control people's minds, to control their feelings, their emotions, and which will lead them to control their actions pretty much. So this here is interesting because that could happen with people. People would not be able to change what they are doing because they are being controlled by a third person. For a man will not be capable to restrain his own hand as if somebody else had control over his hand. For a man will not be capable to restrain his own hand from assassinating his son and his grandson. Nor shall the errant one be able to stop his hand from assassinating his beloved brother. As we saw in scriptures also that we will be hated because of his name. We will be hated by all because of his name. And that some will kill their loved ones thinking that they are doing the job, a job for the Almighty, thinking that they are doing a good thing for the Creator, helping the Creator. Nor shall the errant one be able to stop his hand from assassinating his beloved brother. From the dawn of the day to the luminary orb shall set. From the dawn of the day, I guess, to when the luminary orb shall set, they shall slaughter each other. So from the beginning to the end of the day, they shall kill each other. The horse shall wade up to his breast, and the chariot shall sink until its upper part is submerged. That is what I just mentioned, Revelation 14 during the harvest. It even mentions it here in the parentheses. So let me go and read it once again, since now it is clear that he's referring to that same moment. So imagine the book of Hanoch, written so long ago, now mentioning something that is prophesied in the book of Revelation, the last book of scriptures. We see in Revelation 19 and 20 of chapter 14, and the messenger thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of Yahweh. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the bridles of the horses for about 1,600 stadia. The bridle of the horses, around 184 miles. 184 miles of blood up to the bridle of the horses. Imagine. So it would cover a short person pretty much. A river of blood. And it is what it just mentioned in here in the book of Hanoch. Nor shall the errant one be able to stop his hand from assassinating his beloved brother. From the dawn of the day to the luminary orb shall set. So they will be killing for 30 days from day till night people in the actual Holocaust that will happen in this end times. From the dawn of the day to when the luminary orb shall set, they shall slaughter each other. And also, we are brothers, for we'll come from Noah, who came from Adam. So whenever, even if it's a person from whatever country, killing a person from another country, they're killing their brethren. Even if they look different, they have a different culture because of the time and the different place in which they were born. So when the armies of the beasts will kill the many as the grapes of the harvest of Revelation 14, they will be killing their brethren. Even more so if those in the army claim to be Christians, for instance, or believers. And I say that even though it sounds crazy, because a lot of people deceive themselves to think that by working for the army, they are doing the will of the Most High, not knowing that the army is controlled by a few people who use them for their own benefit. So nor shall the error one be able to stop his hand from assassinating his beloved brother from the dawn of the day to when the luminary orb shall set, they shall slaughter each other. The horse shall wade up to his breast, and the chariot shall sink until its upper part is submerged. The same thing as in Revelation 14. So let's read chapter 99 so that we can start with chapter 100 next week, perhaps. So chapter 99, verse 1. In those days, the envoys shall descend into a site of seclusion. As we just saw, right, the last chapter ended with the harvest, which happens during the seventh trumpet in the middle of the last 7 years, which is already during the beginning of the last millennium, the 1,000 years, which would have started during the sixth seal. So last chapter was speaking about the harvest, the beginning of the 1,000 years, at the middle of the last 7 of this reality, of this time. And in those days, the envoy shall descend into a site of seclusion and shall gather together in one place all who have assisted in the crime. So the fallen angels, the fallen envoys, messengers, who assisted in deceiving the whole world, will gather in one place. In those days, the envoy shall descend into a site of seclusion and shall gather together in one place all who have assisted in the crime. In that day of the judgment, the Most High shall rise up to sentence the great judgment in the midst of all the errant ones. In that day, the day of Yahweh, the 1,000 years of the judgment, the Most High shall rise up to sentence the great judgment in the midst of all the errant ones. For all the righteous and set apart ones shall designate watchers from among the envoys of the set apart one. For all the righteous and set apart, he shall designate watchers from among the envoys of the set apart one. They shall protect them like the pupil of an eye until he exterminates every evil and every error. So certain angels will be in charge of protecting the few, as we know, for instance, within the prepared place of Revelation 12 for the last 1,260 days, the last 3.5 years of those last 7. They shall protect them like the pupil of an eye until he exterminates every evil and every error. For instance, during the last 3.5 years of the last 7. Even if the righteous sleep a long slumber, they shall not have to worry. So even if there are some righteous who died before this time and sleep the long slumber, meaning even if they are still dead during the 1,000 years, because remember, there are 2 resurrections, the one at the beginning of the 1,000 years and one at the end of the 1,000 years when the final judgment happens. So there will be some righteous who will be asleep during the 1,000 years. So it says, even if the righteous sleep a long slumber, they shall not have to worry, because they will eventually be resurrected at the last judgment. Then the sons of the earth shall surely understand wisdom, and they shall understand every word of that scroll. And they shall recognize that their riches cannot save them from the ruin of their error. The sons of the earth, not of the heavens, so meaning those who are of the world. Then the sons of the earth shall surely understand wisdom. No, just a second. Well, yeah, meaning humanity then, because as we know, Adam was made from the soil of the land. So then the sons of the earth, as in the sons of Adam, for Adam was taken from the Adamah, then the sons of the earth shall surely understand wisdom, meaning since all darkness will be taken away, since every evil that they were doing will be revealed, then everybody will finally know what wisdom is, what the true wisdom is, unlike the evil wisdom that they were being fooled by. Then the sons of the earth shall surely understand wisdom, and they shall understand every word of that scroll. And they shall recognize that their riches cannot save them. They will finally understand that money cannot save them, which is very important, because people, when they hear about the end times, many are thinking about getting money, getting riches, thinking that that will save them, not understanding that we should seek the Father who will protect us and can give us anything we need. And they shall recognize that their riches cannot save them from the ruin of their error. Woe to you, errant ones, when you shall be afflicted on account of the righteous. Woe to you, errant ones, when you shall be afflicted on account of the righteous in the day of the great trouble. You shall be burnt in the fire, so you shall be recompensed according to your deeds. Woe to you, errant ones, when you shall be afflicted on account of the righteous, because of what they did to the righteous. In the day of the great trouble, when the day of Yahweh begins, and it is great trouble for them. You shall be burnt in the fire, hell. So you shall be recompensed according to your deeds. So according to their deeds, the level of torture that they will experience in hell. Woe to you, hardened of heart, who are watchful to plan the wickedness, because the terror shall overcome you, and no one shall assist you. Regarding the terror, it says here, the word terror here refers to the frightful demons within worshipped images. Those images have demons within them. When they worship images, they are worshiping a demon. They're worshiping a demon. That demon that they worship will torture them in eternity once they are destroyed. The people who worship the demons. Woe to you, errant ones, because of the words of your mouth. Oh, let me repeat the 6th. Woe to you, hardened of heart, who are watchful to plan the wickedness. Watchful to plan the wickedness. There are people who are workaholics, and their job is to create the wickedness. Their job is to kill people, and they're workaholics. So they will receive their recompense, the pay for that job, by being destroyed. Woe to you, hardened of heart, who are watchful to plan the wickedness, because the terror, or the demons which they worship through their belief, shall overcome you, and no one shall assist you. Who can assist them if the one whom they worship is the one torturing them? They worship an entity which they expect will help them, will assist them. Yet that entity is a demon that will torture them for eternity. So no one will assist them, for they did not know anybody else, in the sense that they worship the evil entity itself. They rejected Yahweh, and at that time, Yahweh will reject them. Woe to you, errant ones, because of the words of your mouths, like the false names. Woe to you, errant ones, because of the words of your mouths and the work of your hands, like the idols, like the false Messiah, which your wickedness has forged. Once again, connected to the previous chapter, referring to the false Messiah forged in a laboratory, forged like an idol made of metal, forged like iron from Rome, which your wickedness has forged. Ye shall burn in burning flames, worse than those of fire. That is amazing. So this refers to burning flames, spiritual flames, which burn more then fire. The fire of this reality burns, but it's just an image. It is just a representation of the true fire, the spiritual fire, which burns eternally. So you shall burn in burning flames worse than those of fire. The burning flames in the spiritual are the real flames, which are represented by the fire that we see in this reality. Just like Yahushua, for instance, is the water, the true water of life, represented by the water in this reality, which we need to stay alive. It is said that a man can only last 3 days without water. I wouldn't be surprised with the body that Yahweh made in his mercy that one could last a bit longer if Yahweh wants, but it is said 40 days without food, 3 days without water. And the only reason I mentioned that is because Yahushua, the water, was taken out for 3 days and then he resurrected. So now know, or verse 8, so know now that for him the envoys of the heavens shall investigate your actions. So know now that for him the envoys of the heavens shall investigate your actions. From the luminary orb, the moon, and the stars regarding your errors. So I repeat, so now know that for him the envoys of the heavens, the Malachim, shall investigate your actions from the sun, the moon, and the stars, the luminary orb, the moon, and the stars regarding your errors. The luminary orb, the moon, and the stars are the ones that they have been worshiping through those images. Most of the time, some others are not represented by the stars since they are lower entities, but still, they have worshipped the fallen angels as if they were Elohim. So that's why it says, so now know that for him, the envoys of the heavens shall investigate your actions from the luminary orb, the moon, and the stars regarding your errors. For concerning the land, he already has determined the judgment for the righteous. For concerning the land, he already has determined the judgment for the righteous. Like the righteous who will inherit the land. Yet he will add as a witness against you every cloud, fog, dew, or rain. For all of them shall be withheld from you, that they may not descend upon you, and they shall call attention to your errors. So cloud, fog, dew, or rain will not ever cover again their errors. Yet he will add as a witness against you every cloud, fog, dew, or rain. Nature itself will witness against them. And also remember, rain represents blessing. The dew as well, but it's connected also, for instance, with the manna, which is connected with Mashiach, the heavenly bread. The cloud that led the congregation and protected the congregation. So for all of them shall be withheld from you blessing, heavenly bread, protection, covering. All of them shall be withheld from you, that they may not descend upon you, and they shall call attention to your errors. Now then bring peace offerings to the rain, to see whether he won't refuse to descend upon you. Now then bring peace offerings to the rain, not to Yahweh, as the people who worship nature, who worship the God of rain, the God of fertility, the God of this, the God of that. Now then bring peace offerings to the rain, to see whether he won't refuse to descend upon you. Something else that we see in scriptures is that it is said even in Judaism that Yahweh gave men authority in order for men to pray for rain to fall. So for rain to fall, men must pray for it. That's why the Native Americans, for instance, would sing in order for rain to fall. So here we see from all of the ones that he mentioned, it refers to rain as something that men can ask for. But they would bring peace offerings to the rain instead of offering it to Yahweh who created the rain. Now then bring peace offerings to the rain to see whether it won't refuse to descend upon you. When has the dew accepted gold or silver in order to descend? So that shows that the rain, the dew, has accepted things as the prayer to Yahweh for rain in order to fall. But he was saying, when has gold or silver worked in order to bring something from nature? Nature is not like man, for man was given free will, and through the deceitful heart believes money is something, and therefore he sells out. But nature is not like that. Nature follows the will of Yahweh, and that's it. So nature won't accept riches from men because obviously is nothing to it. So when has the dew accepted gold or silver in order to descend? Yet in the Christian churches, they ask for gold and silver in order for them to preach, in order for them to teach. But when it comes to Mashiach, first and last, the early and latter rain, it doesn't descend according to the money. When has the dew accepted gold or silver in order to descend? The first and last preach because that is their food. As Mashiach said, my food is to do the will of Yahweh. Their food is money. When has the dew accepted gold or silver in order to descend? But when the frost and the snow with its chills and all the snowstorms with their calamities fall upon you, in those days you shall not be capable of standing before them, meaning you won't be able to survive them. Those who think that they can buy anything with silver and gold, when the plagues come, they won't be able to pay them off. But when the frost and the snow with its chills and all the snowstorms with their calamities fall upon you, in those days you shall not be capable of standing before them. So that's how that chapter ends.